Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to the first edition of Direction Live Online by Esri Malaysia. My name is Nabila Husna, and I am your host for today's session. Now, just a reminder before we get started that we are recording this session, and we will be sending out a link to the recording later this week. So if you want to rewatch it, you'll have that available to you. So today's presenter is Noor Farhana Jafri. So she's a consultant at Esri Malaysia and focus on the Malaysian national sector. So without any further ado, I shall pass the presentation to Farhana. So over to you, Farhana.
Thank you so much to Nabila. So hi everyone, welcome to our GeoBIM. Today's topic is GeoBIM, a new era in digital engineering. So before I start, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone. For this webinar, this is actually the first time that we are covering on GIS and BIM context, and we hope to share on the overview concept of it. We will not be going very technical today, so don't worry. So here is the topic that we have today, which we will be covering on what is really GeoBIM in our perspective. We will go through GIS and BIM fundamentals, okay, and why Esri is doing GIS and BIM integration. We'll be looking on what are the business drivers for GIS and BIM integration, and we'll be looking on how we actually connect GIS and BIM in the platform and the roadmap that we have for our user. And I'll be sharing on some application of GeoBIM and existing architecture that we have today, as well as, of course, what's new on our platform. So let's take a look on the what is GIS first. So GIS stands for Geographic Information System. So it is a system to organize, to communicate and understand the science of world. It is also a framework for people to gather, manage and analyze data. And this actually connects people to the system of hardware as well as software. So when we talk about GIS as a whole, it's actually contain these 5 core elements, which is the hardware, software, data, people, as well as the workflow. So in GIS, geospatial location data is usually coupled with attribute data, and this is actually providing the users with the information about where as well as what for a given geographical area. So the combination of this data actually makes GIS very effective planning and problem solving tools. So this will actually allow users to use the location as a key index in, for example, like interactive queries to better understand relationship, patterns, as well as the trend between places and the thing. So it will actually help you to make smarter decisions. And let's take a look on BIM. So what is BIM? BIM. It stands for Building Information Modeling. So it is an intelligent 3D model-based process that gives architecture, engineering, and construction, okay, so the short form is AEC professionals, the insight and the tool to more efficiently plan, design, construct, and manage buildings and the infrastructure. So the BIM process and technology is actually transforming the way that the building and the infrastructure are designed, constructed, and operated. This will actually help to improve in terms of decision making and performance across the building and the entire infrastructure life cycles. So in the perspective of the AEC industry, it is being challenged with creating innovative ways on how to manage and plan for a sustainable smart cities and infrastructure. So you have the data and the documents stored in traditional silos or in a multiple formats, or it being accessed by, for example, like multiple desktop and web application. So solutions to solve for these challenges are often costly and usually one-off design that created for a single project or organization. So here comes the need of GeoBIM. So in our perspective, we can say that GeoBIM can be defined as the seamless integration of GIS and BIM technologies in a single platform. So through GeoBIM, this combined approach actually enables the project data and solution from both technology, which is the GIS and the BIM, to be viewed and evaluated in a centralized portal. Now, what really makes the existence are driving the GeoBIM opportunities. Now, according to the paper presented on the topic of World Urbanization Prospect by the United Nations Department in 2012, around 200,000 people move to the cities every day, and by 2050, it is expected that the urban population will increase by 75%. So imagine from 3.6 billion in 2010 to 6.3 billion in the coming years. And of course, the global construction output expected to be doubled by 2025. So we are now in 2021 and we can see the trend is actually coming to our way. So the buildings built daily nowadays still not on the pace with the demand itself. So this means that the infrastructure spend needed to keep pace with the demand. So the promise of more tightly integrating GIS and BIM is to empower the AEC firms and the project owners to focus not only on what to design and build, but also to better understand on where and why, to help them to deliver more sustainable infrastructure through more economical, social, as well as the environmentally responsible practices. So these are some of the global opportunities to help the implement changes on the rising issues. Okay. Now, let's take a look on the new approach, which is the concept of data at the center. This is where the Autodesk and Esri integration comes into play. So by putting the data at the center and integrating BIM and GIS data to move seamlessly from one system to another, this workflow actually create a broader and deeper understanding of the infrastructure in the larger context of both built as well as the natural environment. So before our partnership effort with Autodesk come into play, so the users are having difficulty in, for example, like in terms of the project handover processes because of the separate system. And then they are facing issues with the outdated data, as well as the non-authoritative system of the reports. So the live connection functionality that we have currently to geospatial data, for example, it's actually allow the user to populate their model with real-time conditions, real-world conditions and features such as underground utilities, sewer line, or other reality capture data. And this will actually give the user more confidence in terms of the accuracy or the currency of the data. Nowadays, you can also add only the feature layers that you need to your model and sync your model with GIS as the condition change in the designing processes. So now, this data at the center approach actually make seamless collaboration much more easier to give you a deeper understanding and help you in terms of the better decision-making process. So why actually Esri has given so much effort in GIS and BIM integration? Why are we doing this? So through unofficial multiple surveys and numerous customer interaction that we had so far, we can say that the #1 priority request that we often get from the customer and the partners has been for us to actually invest in a better GIS and BIM interoperability. So what is really going on here? What are they asking for actually? So we can say that they would want something. They would want a geo-enabled system where they can actually integrate the information of smart asset as well as the information on the project delivery. So when we listen to the customer and partners, what we hear is the same story over and over about how user want to access information about the asset on the built and the natural environment for them to actually analyze, operate, and plan change in the world around them. So all of these use cases in the urban environments are definitely going to require more and more intersection of the BIM and the GIS. So when we look at what people were really interested in, it can be summed up as BIM is used to capture detailed information about their assets, and whereby GIS providing the information about how those assets operate and are used in the spatial context. So clearly, this BIM and GIS should be able to work together to provide information about the entire life cycle of the urban systems. So these are some of the business drivers that actually promoting the integration on the focus on the integration of BIM and GIS, because a lot of customer requires the business benefit in terms of increased project efficiency, where they can actually improve in terms of cost competitiveness. Nowadays, a lot of AEC firms are moving towards the new business model, which is the EPC, the engineering, procurement, and construction model, which based on the performance models. They want to actually decrease risk in terms of regulatory compliance, and of course, want to offer extended capability through many managed services. They want to increase competitiveness in terms of the portfolio sales, as well as the demand is coming from the users. So the BIM process actually is need this partial information. So this is where the plan, design, build, and manage are in context. So for example, like what you would have here is your BIM model. So you would have the information of your buildings, your transportation layers, your utilities information. So these are all the content, and when it is put into the context of, for example, for the concept of the natural environment, as well as the built environment, for example, for the city perspective itself. So it will actually help to ensure the optimal design and construction is met. So Autodesk and Esri collaboration actually connecting this GIM and BIM, GIS and BIM integration efforts. So both companies are committed to building integrated solution to actually remove silos between the GIS and the design team, to create more connected workflows, which actually help to reduce risk, inefficiencies, data loss, or reduce cycle times. So since the 2017 announcements, our two companies have made many advancements toward the integration. For example, like currently the Autodesk connector for ArcGIS is live in 2020 Civil 3D and Infra works, and our user now can actually publish Revit models into WebScene through ArcGIS Pro, and then subsequently to ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. The plugin for AutoCAD is still supported, and we're looking, of course, to improve in terms of functionality, as well as the other integration point in Esri, as well as Autodesk as well. This will actually makes it much easier to bring the data into the georeference or in a proper format, and it's very easy for our user now to find data that they need. So this will actually increase the confidence in terms of the data, because the data is being georeferenced in a proper way, in a proper format, okay, including all the information about the metadata itself. And we also made it much easier in terms of bringing your Revit files nowadays. So you no longer need the data interoperability extension to actually convert RBT files into useful GIS layer. So our user can just simply drag and drop the Revit file that they have into ArcGIS Pro and use it right away. So let's take a look on the GIS and BIM roadmap on the joint solution progression that we have so far. So for the financial year 20, the focus was more on the product to cloud integration. And this is to actually allow for more frictionless live and native data flow between the teams. So this is something that the user can actually be doing now. Okay, and this year our focus is more like cloud to cloud integration, whereby we want the user to be able to share assets and construction records and data with various stakeholders across a federated content management system. And what we are looking forward in the future is to be able to focus on the asset management and more to the smart cities initiative processes, where we want to actually maximize in terms of data access and use it to drive efficiency in terms of operational management and for the user to be able to capture insights to drive the smart city initiative itself. So now let's take a look on the sample of application in the GeoBIM approach. Because of the sensitivity of the data and the project, we cannot actually share all the content. So this is something that we can actually show, which is, for example, like BIM model have been using extensively in the, for example, in Singapore. And for example, here is tenancy management and operation showcase for Punggol Digital District. So they use a lot of BIM integration in ArcGIS in the city planning purposes. And then GeoBIM also is used widely in the monitoring of the construction status, so project progress by drone, for example, so they can actually see it from weekly, monthly, and as the project progress, they will be able to see what's the progress that being updated so far. And then these are some of the applications where GeoBIM has been used in the master planning, in the capital project, detailed design for stakeholder presentation, construction services, as well as in the revenue generation. And GeoBIM also been used in VR, AR, or mixed reality simulation. For example, VR simulation for job tender presentation and the communication to the stakeholder itself. They've been used for AR simulation of CAD drawings in the real world to indicate, for example, an accurate marking for filing and construction works. So since we cannot show the live project what have been implemented in our user perspective, but we do have a sample Dubai prototype that been built by our Esri Inc. Professional Services with the joint venture with our technology partner MGAEC, that actually demonstrate how the GeoBIM application, web application that is desirable to both the project owner as well as the AEC delivery teams. So let me show you. So what you are looking here is a web scene that the scene in ArcGIS online, where let me show you can actually play around in the web scene to see the surrounding and the model that you have from the BIM models. So this is where the layer that you can actually put into the perspective of the ArcGIS platform. Okay, let me toggle around. Okay, so you can see the side view, the point of view of your model to the surrounding context. Okay, and then the back side, and if you have like the underground assets, you can actually visualize it as well. So the web scene is the web application that actually come with functionality such as you can actually change the base map. For example, like if you want to see in the context of imagery base map of your BIM building, so you can see right away and change it. You can play around with the transparency of the base map, so that if you have like underground models of your BIM, so it will be like very useful. Okay, and then you can do simple shadow analysis of your models. Okay, and of course you can pick and choose on which stage you want to visualize your models. And then they do have some of the capability like measuring, so you can start to actually measure your buildings, and then as well as measuring the area as well as the size of your objects. Okay, and then you can start to share your content. So your 3D model nowadays can be shared easily to the stakeholder. For example, this is very useful in terms of promoting engagement to your stakeholder, for example, like top management as well as the public. So you can share to social media or embed it in a different application. And then we do have like building explorer, so this will actually where you can explore more in terms of your BIM model. For example, if I want to see the level 105, it will actually be shown in the scene. Okay, and then you can actually play around and see in terms of the categories of data that you would want to visualize. So these are some of the functionalities or the usage on how your data, your BIM, is being used in ArcGIS platform. So let's continue to the presentation that I have. Okay. So let's take a look on the solution architecture that we have as of now. Today, we have a number of integration from between Esri and the Autodesk, as per mentioned in the previous slides. For instance, through the architecture that you can see, our user can actually use Autodesk Connector for ArcGIS. For example, like here, the design engineer who might be using Civil 3D or infrawork can easily access shared content from Esri web services such as ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Online. And on the other side of the equation, the geospatial professional would be able to leverage ArcGIS Pro to even connect with Autodesk Construction Cloud. So you see that we have two different tiers of group over here, which is coming from the BIM perspective and as well as coming from the GIS perspective. And the workflow is actually pushing the data to the middle of the architecture. So this is where our data is right now on the cloud itself. So this is actually enable a more connected workflow when we are collaborating between different industry itself. And of course, we are not done yet. We are continuing on that effort. The good news is that this year, Esri will be introducing a new product called ArcGIS GeoBIM. So in the future, we will be going to have more and more GeoBIM application for the user to leverage. It is not released yet, but of course, for today, I have a teaser for you. Okay. So this is a snapshot of how the functionality of GeoBIM in general. So it is designed to actually transform AEC projects with geospatial context, which allow the user to manage risk, costs, and timelines by connecting the BIM process with the location during the design, the construction, and operation of the large capital infrastructure. So this GeoBIM application actually enables teams to integrate and visualize project data in a single cloud-to-cloud solution for making coordinated decisions with stakeholders. So we hope that this will actually support much improvements in the area like documentation review, issue clustering, design coordination, as well as performance dashboard. And we hope, we are looking forward to be sharing about this inshallah in our later webinar. So please stay tuned. And we're almost on the end of my presentation, but before I end my presentation, let me summarize on the benefit of this GeoBIM approach and what it offers to you. Through the GeoBIM approach, actually, you can actually deliver increasingly complex projects in less time by removing the always technology restraint and silos. It's actually improve in terms of team collaboration and accelerate design decision. Um, as well as it actually offers in terms of effectively communicate project intent to your stakeholder, so you can share your big context models with enriched GIS data more easily nowadays, and it will help to actually reduce the risk in terms of minimizing data loss, and you can leverage data across the entire project life cycle as well. So this will actually improve in terms of the whole operational efficiency. So I hope that our sharing this time will be beneficial to you, and please let me know if you have any question here. I will try to answer now, but if time is not permitting, we will surely reply your answer through email after this webinar session. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Farhana. So that was a great overview of GeoBIM topic, and I am certain that everyone found it interesting as well. So we have had a couple of questions come through. So if you have been listening intently to Farhana and you haven't had a chance to type out your question, so there's still time. So you can do that in the question pane, all right? So to kick off, we have one question here from Mr. Zarif, okay, who asks you, what is the BIM data format supported in GIS? So over to you, Farhana.
Okay, in terms of the BIM data format, so ArcGIS now actually, like I mentioned in the previously, actually it reads the BIM data. So for example, like if you have Revit models, uh, so from the past, it was supported through conversion to IFC files, and then we convert it into geodatabase in terms of using the data interoperability extension. But starting from ArcGIS Pro release 2.2, actually, we actually enable a user to open Revit BIM model directly off this, meaning to say you can just drag and drop your BIM model into ArcGIS Pro. And then the BIM file will be actually utilized by ArcGIS Pro as a read-only GIS data source of point. So it will have all the information of polyline, polygon, or your multi-patch feature classes. You can also take the Revit files as a BIM file workspace. So this will actually contain multiple data set of your BIM data. But it will be in terms of the element, it will be belong to the model that you have, and you can further process your Revit file in the ArcGIS Pro using the available geoprocessing processing tool to actually join multiple different BIM together into a single geodatabase. I hope that answers your question.
All right, okay, thank you, Farhana. So the next question we have is coming from Ms. Karen, asking which steps could the software vendors take in order to support GIS and BIM integration? So I repeat, which step could the software vendors take in order to support GIS and BIM integration? So over to you, Farhana.
Okay, in terms of what step or what efforts or what focus that could be a software vendor take into promoting this GIS and BIM integration is, I think, maybe we can do is like to provide better access to the data, and this is what we as a software vendor in GIS are doing to actually provide better access to the data, to have more transparent interfaces, to connect these two different systems, and to even have to use a common access or authentication pattern so that the customer can easily combine and use the data that they already own. Because as we know that the data is like a fuel. So if we make this access to the data a lot easier, then the rest of the process or the workflow will come into places. I think that would be the step that the software vendor can take.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Farhana. The next question is, I think this is the last question coming from Mr. Lim, asking how Esri actually support easier web-to-web client integration. So over to you, Farhana.
Thank you, Nabila. Okay, so ArcGIS actually Esri have provided tool to build, for example, like custom web application, including industry standard integration tools. For example, using ArcGIS API for JavaScript, our user is able to have an extensive customization of 2D and 3D web experience, so they can actually integrate them through the platform. And then besides that, tools like the web app builder, for example, like the Dubai prototype is being built on top of the web app builder, and our new experience builder actually enable user to create a more tailored web workflow through this configuration. Of course, we also provide extensive open access to content that is managed through ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. So if you have like the GeoRes services that encompass different type of your data, and then you can actually share it to the web, and then using the I3S using scene layer. So it is very great it's a very great format to share BIM content over the web application. Yep, that's what we have so far.
All right, so thank you, Farhana. So I think that's all the time that we have today. So if we have not answered your question, Farhana will surely reach out to you with the response. Okay. So we really love your feedback. So take the time to actually fill out the brief survey that you see the pop-up at the end of this session later on. So further feedback or question can be sent directly to events@malaysia.com.my. And finally, if you would like to rewatch this webinar or share with your colleague, the recording will be shortly available on Esri Malaysia event page. Okay. So thank you, Farhana, and thank you everyone for joining us. And we will see you for the next Direction Live Online. Okay, bye-bye.